Hello and welcome to your weekly roundup from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Oh my, I'm 7 minutes late. 7 minutes of your time you were waiting, thinking to yourself, what has gone wrong with the world? Has everyone lost their minds? They're 7 minutes late on Courtroom Confidential. Well, you will find that we have a very good reason for it, but we are glad that you are here and we are appreciative of your patience. And I just want to say hello to Chihuahua Mama and Proud Grizzly, Court Lurker, and Kathy Mama Bear, Therapist, Rainy Day, a bunch of folks that I am so glad that you decided once again on a Friday to carve out some time to talk about true crime with us here at Courtroom Confidential. For everybody who's new, if this is your first time and you managed to sit around for those 7 minutes and give us the benefit of the doubt that it might be worth waiting for, it is worth waiting for. And I want to welcome you and introduce myself. My name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I was there for just over 10 years before I left to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. This is Courtroom Confidential, where we do our best to present to you both sides of the courtroom. And this is our show that we do every Friday, and now we do it live, called Your Courtroom Confidential Weekly Roundup. And it is your recap on all things true crime this week. I'm going to get us jumping right into everything very quickly. Again, thank you for your patience. Thank you to everyone who is here. Arizona Gal, thank you so much for kicking us off with a super chat. Says, I'm on my phone heading into Costco for Thanksgiving items. If I don't log in for the next live, send help. Have a great weekend. CC fan. Well, good luck with all of your shopping, Arizona Gal. Pick up a big old turkey for us. What was I going to say? Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being patient. It's going to be worth your while. Stick around to the end. We've got announcements. Oh, I wanted to make sure to say hi to everybody who's also watching on Facebook and on X. If you're there, please give us a shout out and say hi. And take a deep breath. It's the end of the week. It's Friday. It's all going to work out. As always, hit those like buttons, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and share this with someone who you think might enjoy it. But let's go ahead and get rolling. As details continue to emerge, the circumstances surrounding the shocking death of a teenager on a cruise ship become more sinister by the moment. Plus, a Boston area man heads to trial for the murder of his missing wife, but not without some last-minute bombshell developments. And the mother of a missing California girl walks free on charges that might have been law enforcement's last chance to force her to talk. What happens now? All this and more this week on Courtroom Confidential. As you can tell, lots to dive into this week. As always, we are honored you have chosen us to bring you these updates. I'm your host, Joshua Ritter, an award-winning Los Angeles prosecutor turned criminal defense attorney with 20 years experience navigating the criminal justice system, bringing you my unique insights from both sides of the courtroom. Today is Friday, November 21st, 2025, and this is your Courtroom Confidential weekly roundup. Let's jump in. Federal agents are investigating the stepbrother of an 18-year-old Florida teen, Anna Kepner, who had died aboard a Carnival cruise ship, according to newly filed court records connected to an unrelated family case. Kepner, age 18, died on the Carnival Horizon on November 7th while vacationing with her family. The Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office has not yet provided a cause and manner of death. The new details coming from a filing Monday tied to the past marriage of Kepner's stepmother, Chantel Hudson. In it, Hudson asks to pause her testimony, saying that the FBI informed her that one of her minor children is under investigation in connection with Kepner's death. The filing cites that the, quote, extremely sensitive and severe circumstances, and notes that Hudson and her children were on the cruise with Kepner. A separate filing Tuesday identifies Hudson's teenage son, referred to as TH, as a suspect. According to the document, he is currently staying with a relative to protect the safety of his younger sister and Kepner's other sibling. The filing also says his biological father was believed to be securing legal counsel for him, though it is unclear if that has happened. Now, in breaking news earlier today, a source close to the investigation is revealing to reporters that Anna died by asphyxiation resulting from a bar hold, an arm across the neck. Investigators also found 2 bruises on the side of her neck. Kepner, a high school senior and cheerleader from Central Florida, was remembered Thursday at a celebration of life service. Her obituary described her as outgoing, bubbly, and true to herself, with dreams of cheering for the University of Georgia. Well, what is happening here? If this is true, this latest report that we are just getting today, if true, this is now obviously, I think, safe to say, a homicide investigation. Now, just to be clear, so that we're not twisting words on this and misreporting things and giving you false information, the FBI and no legal source or official source has actually declared this a homicide investigation. But a source, as I described, close to the investigation has revealed this information to several media outlets who are reporting on it. So we feel safe bringing that information to you. Remember where this brings us from, though. Initially, the reports were obviously suspicious. She was found wrapped in a blanket, stuffed underneath the bed of her cabin on this Carnival cruise line, with life vests stuffed on top of her. Highly suspicious, but notably, nothing about that reported on a cause of death. So we were left with the idea that it could have been overdose, even natural causes, or something more sinister, or something like someone was involved in her death. But we didn't know, and it wasn't appropriate, I think, at this time to consider this a full-fledged homicide investigation, because certainly someone was involved in concealing her body, but how she met her end was still up for speculation. I think this changes that all, obviously. Obviously, if they feel that asphyxiation was involved, then this is foul play. This is absolutely murder. And this is going to probably proceed as a murder investigation, which brings us to our next point, that on these cruise ships, identifying who was the last person to be with her, the last person to be in that room with her, and the last person to leave that room is not going to be difficult. This is not one of those cases where the crime took place in the middle of nowhere. This took place on a confined environment in the middle of the ocean. There's no one getting onto that boat, no one getting off of that boat without everybody knowing. And the people on that boat are easily tracked. And the ingress and egress, getting in and out of that cabin, is certainly something that's monitored on that boat. And I'm sure that information was handed over within moments to investigators. That was not something that took a while to figure out. This is not a toxicology report. This is not a medical examiner's report that they're waiting on. This was information that they likely had, I think, within hours of her being discovered. So they probably knew who their prime suspect was. And that's why this information about the stepbrother is most likely reliable information. But again, not officially released information. This is information coming from reporters doing really good work and kind of putting together the pieces. The stepmother, pardon me, was asking for more time because one of her minor children was under investigation. Then we find out it's likely the investigation related to Kepner's death. Then we find out that this is a male, age 16, and you can do the rest of the math for the investigators. So now we're starting to understand why it might be that he had a reason, if he was involved, in fact, and that is the person that investigators are also feeling is their prime suspect. It now sounds like it wasn't just that he happened upon her body or had some innocent reason for trying to hide her body. I know that's kind of a difficult concept to understand, but that he might have likely been involved in her death. One more thing that we have learned since that time, which is also adding to the really troubling nature of everything that we're finding out, and we're finding out more and more about this case by the moment, is a piece of video from an interview with Anna's ex-boyfriend that I want to go ahead and show to you right now.
I was on FaceTime with her, and she was laying down, and the brother tried to go on top of her. I was like, what the hell are you doing in her room, you know? Then he got scared and like ran away. And I heard his footsteps like running through the house, you know, because he got caught.
If it was difficult to hear that, what he's talking about is being on some sort of video application with Anna at a at an incident prior to the cruise. We should be clear to say as well. And what he's describing is how he was talking to Anna and the stepbrother, who is likely the same stepbrother that we're all concerned with, got on top of her and then was startled when he said, "What's going on?" The boyfriend said, "What's going on?" Initially, this came out before the information that I just told you about today from the inside source. So that started to paint a fuller picture of maybe perhaps the inappropriate relationship taking place between these two, the 16-year-old and Anna. And certainly now with this latest information, it does sound like we have a full-fledged crime on our hands, which is obviously devastating. We hope to get to the bottom of that. But this brings me to my question. What do you guys think? What are your theories? I really want to know that. What do you think happened on that boat? What led to this horrible, horrible situation that we're now discussing today? On the ground 09 says, thank God they have the body on this case. That's very true. Had she been lost to the sea, we would not be in this situation. Leanne Dotzel, 612 says, you go on a family holiday for fun, and then this happens between family members, supposedly, since no one has been charged or convicted. So sad. I think that might be changing soon. Thank you for that comment. And then Cody in Tennessee gifts us a Courtroom Confidential membership. We're so appreciative for your support of this channel, Cody in Tennessee. Massachusetts man Brian Walshe, about to face trial for the murder and dismemberment of his wife, pled guilty Tuesday to 2 lesser counts, but the murder trial is moving forward. Walshe, age 50, admitted Tuesday to misleading police and improperly conveying a human body in connection with the death of his wife, 39-year-old Anna Walshe. Minutes later, jury selection began in his murder trial. Prosecutors say Walshe killed and dismembered Anna around New Year's Day 2023, disposing of her remains in the dumpsters across the area. Court documents show that Anna was having an affair and had told a friend she planned to leave him. Investigators also point to Walsh's disturbing internet searches, including, quote, how long before a body starts to smell, and, quote, how to stop a body from decomposing. Walshe continues to deny the murder charge. Prosecutors declined to negotiate or plead any plea deal that didn't include a murder admission, according to court records. At the time of Anna's presumed murder, Walshe was on house arrest for a separate federal fraud case involving forged Andy Warhol artwork. He pled guilty in that case and is serving a 37-month sentence, which is set to return concurrently with the state case connected to Anna's death. If convicted, Walshe faces up to 10 years for misleading police, plus a potential 20-year enhancement tied to the murder charge. He faces an additional 3 years for the conveyance charge. Sentencing will come after the murder trial concludes. Jury selection was completed on Thursday of this week with 16 jurors seated. 12 jurors will decide the case, with the remaining 4 who will be alternates. 9 of those jurors were women, and 7 are men. Under the judge's order, all of the jurors have been asked to refrain from using social media and stop watching or reading the news. Opening statements are set to begin December 1st, and you can watch live on our sister channel, Courtroom Confidential Live Trials. Please subscribe now, and we will provide a link in the description. Well, what's happening here? I thought long and hard about this because I really questioned the strategy of pleading their client, and I'm talking about the defense strategy of pleading their client to 2 of the 3 counts on the eve of trial. Is there any possible benefit to doing that? As a defense attorney, that the thinking usually is concede nothing, admit nothing, give no ground that isn't earned. For every yard gained by the prosecution, it should be hard fought. So why plead him to 2 out of the 3 counts that expose him to over a decade in prison? What possibly could motivate you to do that? And I think, end of the day, they realized probably the most crucial piece of evidence in this case. Because remember, this is a no body case. There is no autopsy. There is no cause and manner of death. There is no, in fact, there is no real smoking gun of forensic evidence in this case. There's some strong evidence otherwise, but there isn't that smoking gun evidence. There is no admission. There is no eyewitness. There is no surveillance of the crime taking place. But there are those Google searches, and those Google searches are the smoking gun. They are the most critical piece of evidence in this case. And I think they sat down and they said, after it was ruled on by the judge that those searches are coming in, they sat down and they said to themselves, what are we possibly going to do about this? We could perhaps explain the DNA on material that was found. We could explain your bizarre behavior. We could explain why you didn't report her missing. All of these things we might be able to explain, but how could we possibly explain while your wife is missing, you are using your son's tablet to search for things like this, things that people simply do not search for? And I think that they thought to themselves, well, as bad as these are, what they don't include are admissions to murder. These aren't searches like, what is the best poison to use to be undetected? Or how do you go ahead and hire a hitman? They're questions about, what do you do about a body that you discovered? And I think that's where they went. Okay, now what we've got at worst is you discovering her body, and you did something about it, and then you lied to the police. So let's go ahead and admit to all of that and get it off the table. And then we can try to explain why you did what you did, but at least stand behind the idea that you didn't exactly cause her death. As I'm saying all of that, I'm sure you're all thinking to yourselves, how are they possibly going to get around that? And how are they possibly going to do it? Well, first thing I think we learned from this is that he's likely going to have to testify now, because there is no person who can possibly explain why he did what he did but him. There's no person in this Hail Mary of a defense strategy here that is going to be able to pull this off but Brian Walshe himself. He's going to have to take the stand and say, ladies and gentlemen, as awful as it is, as seemingly ridiculous as it is, this is what happened. I admit I hid my wife's body. I admit I lied to police. I admit all of that is awful and strange and bizarre, but I did not murder her, and here's what I did. There's no other person that can testify to that. There's no other evidence they can present that does not come out of his mouth that can possibly pull off this incredible feat of trying to convince jurors of that argument. So what's he going to say? Is he going to say she took her own life? Is he going to say it was all an accident? Maybe that's it. Maybe this wasn't murder. This was something short of murder. This was, she attacked me. I defended myself. She fell down the stairs. But again, in those situations, though that might innocently explain, or I should say, explain how she ended up dead without him murdering her, why do you go about hiding her body then? Then you get to answers like, well, I was already in trouble for art fraud. I already believed that the government was after me, and they never would have believed me. And I never thought they would possibly accept my explanation as to why she ended up dead. And I would have been arrested for murder. And I panicked and I got rid of her body. Okay. That's at least something you can stand on your 2 feet and stay in court, I suppose. I think somehow he's going to rope the children into all of this. I think he's going to say, I didn't want them to discover her body after whatever led to her death. I couldn't possibly live with them knowing that and seeing her in that condition. So I decided the best thing to do was just have her disappear. That was easier for me to explain to the kids. Who knows? But one of those, as ridiculous as they sound, are going to be something they're going to have to say in court. And I look forward to seeing that defense opening statement. One more thing on this case, though. The prosecution still has a little bit of loose ends that need tying up, and that particularly goes to the question of motive. Motive is never an element that needs to be proven by the prosecution, and I will say that anytime we talk about motive. But in a case like this, I think it is a mistake for the prosecution not to provide jurors with some motive, something. I always say, give them something to hang their hats on, because you can't just let them sit there with the idea that they don't need to worry about it, because that's the biggest question every one of them is going to have, is why? If you want me to believe that this man, in fact, murdered his wife, caused her death, Why? What would possibly drive him to do that? Well, they do have some reasons. One, he's in financial trouble. He's got a huge restitution order over her head, and she had a multi-million-dollar life insurance policy. Kind of a tried and true one that we see quite often. Money did it. Two, the affair. She was having an affair allegedly with someone in Washington, D.C. He found out about it. He became enraged. He became jealous, and horrible things happened. Again, something easy to wrap their heads around. Another one that has been used or quoted in the media that I think could end up being interesting and is the far more sinister of all of them is the idea that he thought to himself, it's going to be really hard for a judge to send a man to prison who's the sole provider and caretaker of 3 young children. And maybe if Anna wasn't around, maybe it would be more difficult to send me to prison for those Warhol paintings. Again, something is going to have to be articulated, and I think they're going to have to stick with one of them, and they're going to have to convince jurors of that if they want to carry the day in this case. But what do you guys think? Again, I'm opening the floor up to all of you. Tell us your theory. What do you think the defense is going to go into? What are they going to possibly argue in this case? Steph, 2 times paws up, says he's going to say something happened. Argument fell, and she did, and obviously admit to the charges, hiding the body and lying to police. I think you're absolutely right. It's just, what is that thing? Afton says, in my opinion, he did it in the heat of the moment, then panicked. I think you might be right. I think it might be one of those, it wasn't murder, but yeah, maybe I'm responsible, but not as bad as you all think. And Legal Cat Chi-Town says, it's really confusing to say I disposed of the body, but I didn't kill her. I agree with you, and that's probably why he's going to be looking at a murder conviction. A judge on Thursday dismissed the felony false imprisonment charge against Ashlee Buzzard, the mother of missing 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard. Buzzard, age 40, was arrested earlier this month after a man claimed she threatened him and prevented him from leaving her home. She pled not guilty and was released on GPS monitoring while awaiting a preliminary hearing. After more than 2 hours of testimony, Judge Stephen Dunkel ruled that was not enough probable cause to move the case forward and terminated her pretrial supervision, ordering the GPS monitor removed. The charge stemmed from an alleged November 6 incident involving Tyler Brewer, a legal document assistant and freelance paralegal. He testified he felt threatened during a visit to Buzzard's home. He claims her demeanor changed during their conversation and that she had a box cutter and he wasn't allowed to leave. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff's detective testified that following Buzzard's arrest, 2 cell phones were found in her purse. He says a search warrant was obtained and an audio recording of the conversation between Brewer and Buzzard was discovered from one of those phones. The judge noted the audio recording did not show enough evidence for Brewer to have been in fear. Authorities emphasized the false imprisonment case is separate from the ongoing search for Melodee. Investigators say Buzzard took a 3-day road trip with her daughter from October 7th to 10th, traveling as far as Nebraska, returning without Melodee. They say she changed license plates at least once, wore wigs, and was last seen with her daughter on October 9th near the Colorado-Utah border. Her home, rental car, and a storage unit have been searched, but authorities have not said whether any items of interest were located during those searches. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office says Melodee's disappearance remains an open missing person case, not a criminal investigation. What's happening here? They took a chance and it didn't pay off. That's what happened. They took a chance. They arrested her for this unrelated false imprisonment case and it didn't pay off. But you know what? Still the right thing to do. Sometimes you've got to take those chances in law enforcement. And sometimes you certainly have to take those chances when you're talking about what could be life or death. That's the way they're viewing this right now. They're viewing each second that ticks off that clock as a second they could be saving her life. That's the way I think this case is being viewed. They know that time is running out because things like this simply don't happen and end up with a good story. A 9-year-old simply does not vanish from the face of the earth, and her mother is not cooperating with authorities or anyone, and no one can confirm that this child is alive. Those types of stories do not end well. And so they realize that if she even still is alive, every second that ticks off is a valuable second. So you do things like this. You arrest the person. You try to get pressure on her. You try to put the squeeze on her. You try to give her some reason to start to share information, and it didn't work here. It simply didn't pay off. And I will say this, the judge did the right thing. The judge in this case realized, I'm not going to violate the Constitution or my own oath as a judge and hold this person in jail or hold this person to answer at trial for a crime that I simply believe has not been proven. He saw the elements, he saw the evidence, and he said, sorry, guys, no dice. I'm going to have to let her go here. But interesting thing that you may have caught in that in that report that we just read is the idea that the detectives assigned found cell phones in her possession, and they searched those phones. They got warrants on those phones. That's what this is about. You think they go about searching people, seizing cell phones, getting further warrants for cell phones in your run-of-the-mill argument between two people type of case? No. This was all about trying to find information about where Melodee is. They've searched her house. They've searched her car. They've searched the storage unit. They've searched her phone. They've looked everywhere. But so far, they've come up with nothing. And that might be the most troubling thing of all. What evidence has been produced of foul play? Because I'll tell you this, if there is, there would have been an arrest. Where is that arrest? So what now? What do? She won't tell them anything. They can't seem to find anything. Listen, I realize they're not sharing every up-to-date piece of information with the media. But as of right now, we have no suspects. We have no location. We have no understanding of what has happened to this 9-year-old girl. She's not off somewhere taking care of herself. So what do they do now? Continue surveillance? Sure. Get wiretaps, get the FBI involved and tap her phone and surveil everybody she's talking to at all times? Maybe, perhaps it's already being done. Or do you get even more aggressive and say, you know what? We need to go to court and have a judge declare that Melodee is dead. That a 9-year-old, remember, this is a very different situation than we usually see in these missing persons case where months and years down the line, they're declared dead. We're talking about adults in that situation, somebody who does have the means and know-how to get up and leave and disappear if they wanted to, which people sometimes try to do. 9-year-old? No. How long are you going to give a 9-year-old to live on their own? Not long. Not long before they involve help from somebody else. So if this 9-year-old has not been reaching out to other people for help, it's not like a 9-year-old who's got a credit card that we can follow. If this 9-year-old is not reaching out to other people for help, that means that this 9-year-old is likely in distress, and this 9-year-old might be dead. And I think they might have an argument with the judge to declare her dead. And then we're talking about a homicide investigation, and then that changes everything. But even think about this. Getting aggressive like that might force Ashlee to start explaining things if she doesn't want her own daughter declared dead. Again, sometimes we try to come up with aggressive ideas here on this show, and this might be just one of them. But what, again, do you guys think? Again, I'll put it to you. What should they do now? They're running out of time. Let us know your ideas in this case. Two's Jewelry, I'm so sorry about that, says, wasn't Lori Vallow arrested when she couldn't produce her children? What's different in this case? Very, very good point. I think the Vallow case certainly is a really sad example of how these things could turn bad quickly. Forrest Nelson, 5069, says, I don't get it. Why charge and then drop charges? They gain nothing this way. Well, I think it was the idea of at least they had her somewhere and was able to monitor her for a short period of time. And Beth Nancy says, this just drives me nuts that they can't demand she produce Melodee. We all agree on that one. Before we jump into the other cases making headlines this week, I'm just going to ask you to do me one very small favor, and that is, if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel now. It's completely free, and it's a great way to support the channel. We want to continue to provide you with the highest quality content that we possibly can, and the best way that we can do that is through your support. Also making headlines, the Utah mother accused of fatally poisoning her husband with a lethal dose of fentanyl will not receive a new bail hearing ahead of her upcoming trial. On Monday, the judge ruled that nothing has changed to justify reconsidering the decision to hold Kouri Richins without bail. Richins, age 35, is charged with aggravated murder and attempted murder for allegedly killing her husband, Eric Richins, on March 4th of 2022. Prosecutors say she also slipped fentanyl into his food on February 14th of 2022, making him violently ill. Investigators allege she bought the drugs from her housekeeper, Carmen Lauber, who allegedly sourced them from a man by the name of Robert Crozier. In October, Richins' defense team asked the court to revisit bail, arguing that Crozier now claims he sold Lauber Oxycontin, not fentanyl. They argued that if prosecutors can't prove Richins ever obtained fentanyl, their murder case collapses. Prosecutors argued Crozier's new statement isn't credible and that he previously told detectives in 2023 that he provided fentanyl. They emphasized that even without his earlier statement, the state still has substantial evidence supporting the murder charge. Judge Richard Mrazek called the defense's argument unpersuasive for three main reasons. First, a jury could decide Crozier's 2023 statements were more credible, and if he testified differently at trial, prosecutors can impeach him with his prior statements. Second, the judge said other evidence in the case points to Richins' motive and consciousness of guilt, and Crozier's recantation doesn't change that. And finally, the judge clarified that his role isn't to predict whether a jury will convict, but whether a jury could convict based on available evidence, and he ruled that the evidence meets that threshold. A pretrial conference is set for December 5th. The two-day evidentiary hearing is expected to begin January 7th, and her nearly 2-month-long trial is scheduled to begin in February. What's happening here? Well, I think a couple things remain true. One, I'm astonished that she is still being held without bail. And I realize that a lot of folks watching and listening right now might say, what in the world could possibly bother you about that, Ritter? Well, bail, when we have a situation where there is no bail, and bear in mind, when I say bail, I don't even necessarily mean let the person out. And in fact, I don't mean that. I don't mean just release. I mean set bail. Bail is a fundamental right given to people accused of crimes. Bail is for the sole purpose of saying, while you're defending yourself, instead of just allowing you to languish around in custody in jail, we're going to give you the opportunity to get out, but that's going to come with a lot of strings attached. And those strings have to do with, one, whether or not we trust that you'll return to court, and two, whether or not we feel that you might be some sort of risk to the public at large. Assessing all of that, we're going to give you a very compelling reason to basically behave yourself. And the best way that we've come up with that in our system is through money. And so we say, okay, well, if we set bail at $100,000, doesn't that give a person 100,000 reasons to, one, show up to court the next time, and two, make sure they don't cause any further harm while they're out? Sure. And depending on how serious the case, or depending how serious the defendant, we raise or lower that. But in a situation where we say nothing can address that, nothing can address either our fear that you won't return to court or our fear that you might cause further harm, only in the rarest of circumstances should we ever say you get no bail. Kouri Richins, as much as you may be convinced by everything that you've heard thus far, Kouri Richins is innocent until proven guilty. So we have a presumed innocent person just remaining in custody simply because the judge in this case, and the laws in Utah, I suppose, say that she's going to have no bail. That's just astonishing to me. That all being said, I like this judge. I think he made the right ruling in this situation. While I may disagree that she should have had bail set at some point, I also agree that this recent information about this witness changing their mind is not enough to turn this into to create what we call a changed circumstance and allow for bail to be reconsidered in this case. So I'm willing to admit when I disagree, but I'm also willing to admit when I like the judge's thinking behind a case. This case is obviously going to have its different things that the prosecution is going to have to have trouble dealing with. One of those things is going to be this recent witness and the recanting of a witness. And it brings up an interesting circumstance of when is a witness's statement more reliable? And will jurors consider his statement closer in time to when he was first interviewed to be more reliable, or will they consider the statement that he made, apparently recanting his previous statement, to be more reliable? How will the prosecution handle that? Because it may be one of those situations where they have to impeach their own witness, and how will they cut at the credibility of their case? How important is it that they prove or are able to prove and put the fentanyl into Kouri Richins' hands? Will jurors care that they have a reason to prove that? Remember, they don't have to prove how she got the fentanyl. They just have to prove that she's the one that put it into his drink. So it may be that this wasn't the mechanism that she got the fentanyl. This just happens to be the way that they discovered a possible way that she got the fentanyl. Again, difficulties for the prosecution, but not things that they can't find themselves a way to argue around. But it is a case that we will certainly keep our eyes on. Ms. Annie K says Kouri would be in the wind if given bail. She's happy to waste others' money, and it would be on a small boat, in my opinion. And Court Lurker says, this case just gets worse and worse in court. I think I agree with you on that. A popular singer has been identified as a suspect in the death of a teen whose decomposed remains were found in September inside a Tesla at a Los Angeles tow yard. Investigators believe Celeste Rivas Hernandez died in the spring and that David likely had help dismembering and disposing of her body. The 20-year-old artist has not been cooperative in the investigation, according to reports. Celeste disappeared from the Lake Elsinore area in April of 2024 at age 13. Her brother previously told the reporters the family knew Celeste had some connection to David. He said she vanished on her way to meet him from a movie and never came home. Her remains were discovered September 8th, a day after her 15th birthday, after workers reported a strong odor coming from the Tesla registered to the singer. Officers opened the front trunk and found a bag containing Celeste's remains, which were not intact, law enforcement sources said. The medical examiner has not yet determined a cause of death. At the time of the discovery, David, whose legal name is David Burke, was on a world tour. The Tesla had been impounded after being reported abandoned in the Hollywood Hills, where neighbors say it had been parked for more than a month. Reporters also say investigators are scrutinizing what they describe as a mysterious overnight trip Brooke allegedly took to a remote area of Santa Barbara County in the spring of 2025, where he remained for several hours. During a news conference Wednesday morning, Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman told reporters, quote, "The police have not presented the case to our office, so at this point, I don't anticipate one way or another whether or not charges will be filed." Mark my words here, folks. An arrest is coming. There's just too much smoke in this case for there not to be fire. Nate No Hollow Back Girl says, I always thought he was a suspect. It's his freaking Tesla. Very well put. And Violet Beauregard says this case is moving too slow. Again, I agree with you on that. Before we get into the rest of the week's cases, I don't know if you've seen the news lately, but there are reports that over 183 million email passwords have been leaked online, including Gmail. This means that hackers can not only get into your Gmail account, but they could get into any account linked to that account, including shopping sites, banks, and subscriptions, you name it. As someone who uses Gmail every day, I worried, obviously. But then I remembered I'm protected by our sponsor, Aura. Aura provides full digital security so you can feel safe even when leaks like this happen. You get dark web alerts, bank fraud monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance all in one app. Try Aura free for 14 days right now. Just go to aura.com/courtroomconfidential. It's free to try, it protects you, and it helps support the show. The Tennessee man accused of killing 4 members of the same family pled not guilty during his arraignment on Monday. Austin Drummond is charged with first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and multiple weapons offenses in connection with the July 29th shootings. Prosecutors confirmed they will seek the death penalty if convicted. Drummond, age 28, was indicted by a grand jury on November 10th after an earlier judge found enough evidence for the case to move forward. The victims, James Wilson, age 21, Adriana Williams, 20, her brother, 15-year-old Braden Williams, and their mother, 30-year-old Courtney Rose, were found shot to death and covered with tarps in a wooded area. An infant belonging to 2 of the victims was discovered abandoned in a stranger's front yard miles away, but unharmed. A weeks-long search for Drummond ended when police tracked him to an abandoned building in Jackson, about 70 miles from the crime scene. He was unarmed at the time, though authorities recovered several guns nearby. It's unclear whether any of them were used in the killings. At a hearing in September, an FBI agent testified that cell phone data placed Drummond near the wooded area where the bodies were found. His attorney argued that even if he was nearby, prosecutors presented no evidence he actually fired the shots. Several people have been charged as accessories after the fact, accused of helping Drummond while he was on the run. Prosecutors have also highlighted Drummond's prior criminal history: armed robbery, threatening jurors, and an attempt murder charge involving a prison guard. He was out on bond at the time of the killings. During the brief hearing, Drummond's attorney told the judge he plans to request a change of venue. A trial date has not yet been set. I think it would be really helpful in this case for the prosecutors to release some theory of motive in this case, or at least tell us whether or not the girlfriend has been implicated. Court Lurker says this case is so crazy and heartbreaking. I agree. Alicia K. Mayo says, Tennessee slimy little amoeba. Very true. Trial for the Massachusetts woman accused of killing her 3 young children has again been delayed. Earlier this month, Lindsay Clancy's attorney, Kevin Reddington, asked that the trial be pushed back from February 9th, 2026 due to government evaluations for Clancy. Both sides agreed upon July 20th of 2026. Her defense team also asked for a change of venue as a result of the intense media scrutiny, but the judge denied that request. Also at Tuesday's hearing, the parties discussed some of the logistics surrounding that trial, including security, transportation, and medical issues, since Clancy remains confined to a wheelchair. No final decisions were made on how Clancy will be brought into court, and the judge said another hearing might be necessary before he makes a ruling. Clancy was indicted on 3 counts each of murder and strangulation in the 2023 deaths of her 5-year-old daughter, Cora, 3-year-old son Dawson, and 7-month-old son Callan. After killing her children, authorities said Clancy cut herself and jumped out of a window in an attempt to kill herself. Reddington has previously asserted that Clancy was suffering from postpartum depression and was over-medicated on the day of the killings. Prosecutors have argued she knew what she was doing as she sent her husband out to pick up medicine and dinner, even mapping how long the trip would take. The next hearing in the case will be held on January 27th to discuss status and scheduling. This case is probably going to be one of the most emotionally charged trials we are going to see in a very long time. Pammy MC says, grr on this one. I couldn't agree more. And Kathleen Craghead says, this is so heartbreaking. Absolutely true. Before we get to what's coming up for next week, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of this growing community. But I want to give a special shout out to BK Deb RN for your comment on Apple Podcasts, and to our CC crew members, Ms. Demeaning, Becky B, and Amy Bell for your comments on YouTube. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. Please keep those comments coming. We absolutely love hearing from you and you helping spread the word about Courtroom Confidential. On the docket for next week, Kelsey Fitzsimmons, the Massachusetts police officer accused of aiming a gun at a fellow officer serving her a restraining order obtained by her fiance, has a trial assignment conference on Tuesday, November 25th. And Samuel Hostetler, the Amish teen from Ohio facing a variety of charges in the death of Rosanna Kinzinger, will return to court on Tuesday, November 25th for a pre-trial conference. And finally, please join us for our special question and answer series, Sunday Fun Day. All are invited to leave a voice message with a true crime question at thecourtroomconfidential.com, which I will answer live during Sunday show at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. You can find the live stream on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And that is it for us this week, folks. I am your host, Josh Ritter. You can find us on social media at CR Confidential on X, at The Courtroom Confidential on Instagram, or at thecourtroomconfidential.com. Thank you again for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again next week for another episode of Courtroom Confidential. Lots of stuff going on this week. Very, very busy week. It's one of those things where it's going to get super, super busy. And then next week's going to be a big nothing because everybody tries to get everything to take place before the holidays. Then we're going to have that weird kind of between Thanksgiving and Christmas time where they squeeze stuff in as quickly as they can, or it's cases where you just simply can't get anybody to waive time and it's a defendant demands their trial in the middle of the holidays, which everybody, including all the jurors, hates. And then we'll have that mad rush after the beginning of the year. So it could be wonky for us the next few weeks here. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Thank you so much, all of you, for your support. Let me give you some announcements before I let you go with the rest of your Friday and to have a wonderful weekend. First of all, what did you miss? On Wednesday, I was in New York City, in the Big Apple, but we still had our Wednesday Night Live. And it was a really, really great show with Julia Janae from Court TV. She's one of my favorites. She's so bright. She's so on top of these cases. She's also got this like encyclopedia type memory of every case out there because she's watched all of them. And so she can kind of pick and choose examples from other cases to help us understand. So if you haven't watched, please go back and watch it. We talked about the Anna Kepner case, Brian Walshe, the David case, a lot of updates. She's got some great insights. Also, I was on the podcast Kennedy Saves the World. You remember Kennedy? She used to be a MTV VJ. Now she's a Fox News personality. And I was on her podcast that you can check out. We'll have the link. There it is for you. Kennedy Saves the World podcast. She's also, I think, genuinely a person you can describe as a hoot, if that makes sense. We had a really good time, and we talked about the Anna Kepner case as well. She's got her own interesting take on that case and the world of cruising in general. So please check it out. Then stay tuned. First of all, this weekend on Sunday, what do we do on Sundays? Everybody all together now, all at once. Sunday Fun Day. Live 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. We're back for another episode of Sunday Fun Day where we're going to be answering your questions. A lot of good stuff this week. Of course, Brian Walshe, Melodee, Buzzard, Kouri, Richins, all of the things that we touched on a little bit today. I'm sure you guys have questions, and we will take those questions and answer them live for you on Sunday. Then, because it is a holiday week, and we want to give everybody a little break and time to be with their family, we have a bit of a special, that's the way I'm going to put it, special holiday schedule for you. On Monday, we're not going to do a Monday night live. Instead, we are going to do an encore presentation. We've revamped and re-edited and re-specialized our case notes on Brian Walshe. We did this a while back. Still the same information, but we want to re-release that for you so that you guys can catch up on that case, get all the information you might need before trial begins on December 1st. So we're going to be releasing that as a premiere, right, ladies? A live premiere on Monday, encore presentation at that normal time then, I'm guessing. Are we going to do it at what time do we usually do it on Monday? 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. A lot of confused faces looking back at me. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, live premiere of a encore presentation of our Brian Walshe case notes. Wednesday, no Wednesday Night Live. Be spending some time with family, getting ready for Turkey Day. Instead, tune in for a premiere of the weekly rap sheet. If you haven't heard about this, this is something we made a special announcement about on Wednesday. Very proud to share with you that I am part of this new exciting adventure, a weekly show that's going to be released on Fox Nation. Fox Nation is a digital platform, a lot of great content and a lot of true crime content. They've got a whole programming over there called Fox Justice. And myself, Paul Morrow, and Donna Rotuno co-host this show called The Weekly Rap Sheet. And we just recorded our first episode, and I'm very proud of it. And I want you guys to enjoy it. And so they're going to premiere that for something new to watch. Like I said, while you're getting ready to watch some football and eat too much food, you can watch the weekly rap sheet. It will premiere at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox Nation. We'll put a link in the notes as well for Fox Nation. In case you're not a member already, you can learn how to sign up for that. And I'm going to go ahead and say, at least check it out. It might be worth your while. And then finally, December 1st so we're getting into the following week, but I want to give you a heads up because that is when the Brian Walshe trial starts, and we will be covering that live from opening statements to closing arguments and everything in between on our sister channel, Courtroom Confidential Live Trials. Is there somebody out there that just said, what is Courtroom Confidential Live Trials? Did I hear that? Did I hear someone murmur, what is Courtroom Confidential Live Trials? That is our sister channel. So it's not on this channel. You have to go to Courtroom Confidential Live Trials on YouTube, search for it. There's the link, easy enough to find, CC Live Trials. That's where we put all our live streaming of trials, and this is going to be a big one. And where I can, I'll jump in and out and provide some feedback on these cases. But we want to have a place for the entire Courtroom Confidential community to gather together in the live chat and chat about this. And it's basically the YouTube version of the Cool Kids table. If you know, you know. So please check it out. And that's where you can be watching the Brian Walshe trial. And for Thanksgiving week, you can, Tiffany wanted to suggest, if you guys have been enjoying our conversation series, we've got plenty more out there. There's a whole playlist. We've got playlists of a bunch of old stuff. So if you enjoy conversations, if you enjoy case notes, 5 things, all of these ongoing series that we have playlists for you. But the conversations playlist includes such hits as Joseph Scott Morgan. I know everybody's a big fan of him. Gisela K from Grizzly True Crime. All the behavior panel guys. Finally, we got the royal flush of all 4 of them to be interviewed. So please go check it out. You guys are all fantastic. Please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. A big thank you to, first of all, to Tio Toys. My friend Phil has been a member for 9 months, everybody. Golf clap for Phil. Nobody is bidding on my eBay Warhols. Well, that's because you blatantly say you purchased them from a 1B Walshe of Massachusetts, and we're all a little suspicious of it. What was the search warrant? Sage. What was the last one? I missed it. Guilty green. That doesn't look too guilty. This looks like an innocent green to me. Oh, by the way, there's our fall colors if you want to check it out. I didn't shout out the website like I usually do, but you can go on the website, thecourtroomconfidential.com, and click on the shop for all of our new colors, all of our old colors, including this one, which is, it's not called Conversations Playlist. I know that for sure. What is it, Tiffany? Pine, light green, boo, horrible, not inventive at all. We'll have to come up with a new name for this one. But while we're coming up with a new name, just head over to thecourtroomconfidential.com, click on merch. Oh, you know what? One more announcement. I'm not going to let you know. I'm not going to let you go without saying this. the holidays are coming up. And you know what happens after Thursday, Thanksgiving, Turkey Thursday, comes Black Friday, when you start to make purchases for the holidays coming up. And so we don't want you to miss out on all the merch that we have at courtroomconfidential.com, thecourtroomconfidential.com. So please check out all the brand new merch. We've got new Christmas themed sweaters. We've got new beanies and mugs and everything, all those little stocking stuffers and beyond that you guys might want to check out. Please go check it out at thecourtroomconfidential.com. So that's my last little announcement I'll leave you with. More to come on Sunday, I'm sure. Big thank you to Afton, Shy Gal, Kathy, and Therapist. You guys are all fantastic. Those are our mods, and thank you for keeping us all happy and in line. And Kaylin says, shop till you drop. And big shout out to Kaylin for putting up with me today. It was a bit of a whirlwind because we got that breaking news right before we started. And I know it stresses Kaylin out. I can tell from the look on her face, but now she's very happy because we got through it. And big shout out to the love of my life and the best thing that ever happened to me, Tiffany. Thank you guys so much. Have a great Friday. We'll see you all Sunday, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.